G'day and welcome to another episode of Sidekick TV. Today I'm joined by a very special guest, Dave Jessep, who is the founder of DJCA and Sidekick, and so it's an absolute pleasure to have you on an interview here today, Dave.
Thanks, mate. No, it's great to be here. It's good to kind of get into the Facebook sort of side of things. It sounds like you've got quite a few followers, so thanks for having me.
No problem. Really looking forward to it. So, Dave was managing partner and CEO of our group from inception in 2006 through to about 18 months ago. Dave, can you give us an update on what you've been up to for the last 18 or so months?
Yeah, sure. So I was Sidekick started 2006, or DJCA it was, and then we grew sort of over that 15-year period. We had a few offices. We had an office in London, and then we had an office in Auckland for a while, didn't we? And then we've grown, really focused on the South Island, didn't we? So we ended up with I think it's 10 offices in the South Island, and I think we had and plus we did, so we had about 100 staff, wasn't it, in total? So it went really well for a while. Then I had a little health issue, which made me decide it was time to sell up to these younger guys coming through. And fortunately, we'd set everything up pretty much, hadn't we? So that the shareholders agreement was in place. So you guys were able to buy me out just in the middle of the lockdown, wasn't it? Yeah, it's good timing.
5 days into lockdown. Very exciting.
No, I appreciate that. But it's been great. I've actually enjoyed having a bit of a break, 18 months. So I've been biking and skiing and having the odd craft beer, and I'm feeling a lot better now, so cool. Good to be back.
Yeah. So kind of a short-term retirement and then back into it.
Yeah, well, I was sort of vaguely retired, but I'm not really a fan of really doing nothing. I think you need to have some focus and some interests, and that's just how I am, really. But at the same time, it's quite nice to do it in the terms that I want. So that's the change, really.
Yeah, awesome. And we were catching up today, weren't we? Because we're talking about a new venture that you're pushing into now, which with the Sidekick brand. It sounds really exciting. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Sure. Yeah. So I've got about 3 or 4 consulting assignments where I'm helping some of our clients that need a little bit more financial clout. So they're the guys that are needing sort of a chief financial officer, but don't really need a full-time one. So some of them I'm doing, say, 5 hours a week, and some I'm doing 5 hours a month. So that's quite good. I'm helping them just to sort of get through a few little issues. I think the key thing we're finding is that Xero is great from a data and understanding that data, but it's that real kind of analysis of that data which is crucial. And so sort of moving on from that, we're thinking about putting together a Sidekick Business Edge program. One of the things perhaps I've recalled from being in practice was I think small businesses struggle sometimes to find the time to do professional development and actually learn about different things that can really help them improve their business. So the idea really is to do a weekly sort of session, maybe 15 minutes, something you can either listen to or watch driving to work on a Monday morning, and just a bit of an opportunity to think about how you can improve your business and using some of the maybe experience and knowledge that I've picked up over the last 15 years and what I'm continuing to sort of notice at the moment. So
great.
Yeah, so I'm quite keen to, if you want to help me with that, Rick, that'd be great.
It'd be my pleasure.
Great.
And so, what are kind of maybe some of the subject areas that you might cover off for your typical Kiwi business owner?
Yeah, sure. So I think it's about really, understanding value and understanding where that value comes from sometimes. And so sometimes I think businesses focus on what's in front of them and what is happening day to day. And sometimes that's not necessarily the highest value place. And so what I'm trying to think about is each Monday morning when you're driving to work, try to focus on a potential area where they can think about how they can add value. And one of those things might be margin. So understanding what your margin is, or what your gross margin is for each transaction that you're participating in. And so thinking about how I can make the most of that margin while also adding value to my client. So I'm not here to say we should be trying to rip clients off or over charge clients. But it's really understanding what value I can add to that client and how I can participate in that value sort of proposition.
Yeah. And that could be that you could be a trades business, you could be a hospitality business, you could be, this is across the board, isn't it?
Well, a good example, from our perspective might be that we might be able to find, a situation where we can find a tax saving or some sort of upside to a client. And so the question of that is, what we've created some value. Therefore, what value should we be charging to in terms of adding that value? So that might be somewhere between a third or half or whatever the number might be. So it's sort of understanding that with your clients and just getting your head around understanding how you kind of sort of fit in with your clients and how you can add more value to your clients.
Create that real win-win. Create a product out of it and just let your clients buy that.
Exactly. The other area I find quite fascinating is understanding what those key sort of drivers or key performance indicators are for your business. Working with a business at the moment which is just a big volume business, and they're doing cubic meters of product each week, and I'm saying to them, at the moment your business is all about buying the raw product, doing a process to it, and then selling it. So those three key drivers to that business are cubic meters bought, cubic meters processed, cubic meters sold. So each week on a basis, let's just start recording those numbers and then start saying, well, okay, how do we improve those numbers? How do we improve? Because if we can say add another 10% to our sales targets, then it all goes to the bottom line. So it's all value. So it's just kind of really understanding what those drivers are.
Yeah.
And to kind of get to that point, we've kind of almost gone back a step and said, what do you want to achieve? Right? What is your goal for the year? What are your objectives? Because if you kind of don't know those, then it's hard to just sort of set sail for them.
Yeah. So first it's around that defining what success looks like, which is one of our mantras, And then if you understand that, it's then setting out how to go get that, isn't it?
Yeah.
What are the numbers? What are we setting?
Yeah. I'm a big fan of keeping things really simple.
Yeah.
Like just not going too wordy. And I think some of our business plans, that's what we try to aim for, make it real action orientated. So keep it really simple. We're not make it simple, but then also understand in your business process that is a process where the more efficient you can get that process, the more the clients enjoy the process, the more you enjoy the process, because more you can hand over to your staff, and hopefully the better profitability as a result of that process. So it's just that continual improvement, I think, as well, is a key sort of area which I'm going to be looking to focus on.
Yeah, and we were talking earlier before we started recording about you keep those KPIs simple, then the team's really engaged in it. And you were telling me an example of a fantastic KPI-driven business that you recently worked with.
Yeah. One of our clients, he runs a bar in Christchurch, and he's done looking at this new. It's quite an old theory, but basically he's introduced it where 10 of his key staff are all engaged in a weekly meeting, and at each meeting they each will report on a key performance indicator for their business. And because he's in hospitality, those are things like wastage, things like sales per customer, things like cost of goods sold per. So what percent? So if you're doing a meal for $10, what the cost is for your labour process, what the cost is for your food, and so each of those kind of key drivers he allocates to each of his staff, and if they improve those numbers, then it all falls to the bottom line. Mm-hmm. So what he's done then is said, well, okay, if you achieve these numbers, the bottom line, and we hit our budget, then anything beyond our budget, we actually start to the staff starts to participate in.
Right.
And I've never seen a bunch of 25-year-olds so engaged in a business. They were all treating it like it was their own business, and they were all really motivated to get that extra bit. Because at the end of the day, you think, well, if I can make, at the moment I'm making this much, right? And based on my capacity, I might be able to make that. If things go perfect, I'm going to make this much. So I'm sort of missing out on an X amount, right? And so I'm saying to myself, how do I get from here to there? And really, the key bit is actually engaging with your staff, and you actually say, well, okay, if I can increase my turnover or these KPIs out to here by engaging with staff and staff, being engaged and being more interested, then they can participate in that. So the staff will end up with more, perhaps a bigger hourly rate, and as a result of that, they end up, being paid more than market. So you retain your staff.
Yeah.
And that was the key thing, for this guy, is that his staff retention was fantastic.
Yeah.
And in that industry right now, crucial.
Absolutely
Crucial. Yeah.
And like you say, you're sharing a bit of the pie that you weren't getting.
Yeah, you're not getting it. You're giving it away to your competitors. So why not share it? Because ultimately it's a win-win, right?
Yeah.
And ultimately I think that's the key thing as well in business, is how do we win-win?
Yeah.
How do we really, get to a point where everyone's adding value to your clients and understanding. I don't know if you guys have watched that movie, the McDonald's movie. Have you seen that movie?
No, I've not. No.
Haven't you?
No.
It was a fascinating movie where when the guy started McDonald's, and he thought that he was selling burgers, but the reality was, he was turning. He was a property. It was all about property, because what he was doing was turning bits of land that was essentially worthless into a cash flow environment. So basically, he was building restaurants on bits of desert that had no value, and all of a sudden then they were starting to make money off the fact that people would come and buy burgers from there.
Wow.
So he understood that his business wasn't necessarily burgers was important, but the key way he was going to really make a value upside was to buy property.
Yeah.
And now he's billionaires.
Yeah.
So it's fascinating. I'm not suggesting everyone wants to be a billionaire, but it was more just understanding what one of those, the key driver or the key understanding what his business was about.
And understanding the real value proportion of your business. It might not be, we see it all the time, you can really feel like, oh, this is what I do, but hang on, all the wealth is happening over here.
Yeah. Well, you look at that as an example. An empty building is worth, nothing like what a full building's worth.
Yeah.
Because a full building will have tenants and cash flow, and so that's where the value is. The value is the cash flow.
Yeah.
So it's understanding how you fit in that model, and that's sometimes it's hard to get your head around. So my goal each week is going to be to keep it really nice and simple, because I like simple.
Yeah.
And try to add value at the end of the day. That's the goal.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm thinking, and I'm not sure whether clients will be interested in that. We'll see, I suppose, won't we?
Yeah, totally. Put it out there. I mean, I do certainly think there'll be a lot of them that do. Every time we chuck a video like this, it gets hundreds of views. So yeah,
wonderful,
perfect.
Oh, great.
Well, thank you very much, Dave. It's been a real pleasure. I look forward to doing these Sidekick Business Edge videos and watching them. Cool. Thank you very much, guys.
Cheers.
Cheers.